That's ridiculous.
I know, can I?
You look great. You look great, kid.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Brisa Areli and I'm the Director of Artistic Innovation and Emergent Magic here at Musical Theater Factory. And we are joined here tonight with our incredible artists, EmmaLee and Maria, as well as our Artistic Innovation Lead, Brandon Powers. And we're here to talk a little bit about the intersection of musical storytelling and technology. So I'd love to start off by talking a little bit with EmmaLee and Maria. We had an opportunity to do a live taping where we were in conversation with experts about the work that you're doing at the intersection of technology. And this gets to be a beautiful opportunity to follow up on that. But we've also had the opportunity to go to a conference together in Miami at the intersection of immersive tech and musical storytelling. And we're really excited to hear a little bit more about that work, but also who you both are as artists. Yeah. So can we take a moment? Can we introduce each of you all individually, who you are as artists in the world?
Yeah, my name is Maria Isabella Andreoli, and for this project, I write the story and music.
Hi, I'm EmmaLee Kidwell, and I write the story and the book and lyrics. And we started this project, the seeds of it, 6-7 years ago, a long time ago. And it's been really just a big gift to work on it with Musical Theater Factory and to go to Miami and explore all of these opportunities and the development that we've had.
Yeah. We had the privilege of working with you all over the course of more than 2 years now, but you were a part of our Makers cohort, 2 years of developmental support where you were working on a couple of different pieces, a piece called The Waiting, as well as this brand new piece, Come See Your Future, that really started getting developed when you started having XR dates with Brandon to start thinking about what's the function that technology could play in your work. So I'm curious, I want to go back, Brandon, to maybe some of the first times that you were engaging with EmmaLee and Maria and introducing them to the function technology could play. What is it that you remember about those early moments where you were exploring together?
Yeah, and if you're new to the program, I lead these things we like to call colloquially XR dates, which essentially are these extended reality opportunities for artists to get to know and just be exposed to new technology and how it can impact their practice. And EmmaLee and Maria were down to go for it and just to see what's possible, especially as they had the inklings of this idea of what could happen with this show. And honestly, I think just from the very get-go, there was just a lot of open-mindedness and excitement, and I feel like very quickly things just kind of clicked. I weirdly almost don't remember this inciting incident because I think in my brain it's we've always been making a VR musical, right? And so you might remember a little bit more clearly of oh, it wasn't, and then it was.
Yeah.
But it felt like such a natural progression to the work that you were all doing, and it was, I think, really energizing to see that unlock first in that conversation and then later on in this R&D session where we got deeper and we're able to actually get up on our feet and see what it's like to actually put VR into the show. And I think that's what really got us going.
Yeah. It was definitely, at first, I feel like I was I don't know about all this tech stuff. I'm I feel like we could just sing the songs and be kind of a vibe. But I feel like when we started doing it, it's a sci-fi musical. So I was I don't know. I feel like we'll see what happens when we start going on these XR dates with Brandon, and there's some things that we could never accomplish on the stage that we are able to accomplish with virtual reality. So I feel like it melded into the show fairly quickly, and now I can't really imagine it without it.
Yeah.
What does it even mean to be a VR musical?
I guess it can mean different things, for sure.
Right? For us, it means, which is interesting because we hatched this idea and we were Brandon, will that work? And then you were I don't really know. No one's done that before. So, for us, it is meaning that it is a traditional, book musical that unfolds with live actors and live songs in front of you, and then at certain points in the musical the audience is cued to put on a virtual reality headset and then go into the first person perspective of one of the characters on stage and literally see the story through their eyes, and then you take off the headset and it picks up right where your VR experience left off. I think that the first person perspective ability that VR can offer us, because you're talking about these XR dates, and it makes me think about doing notes on blindness. Like, that was honestly my pivotal moment of knowing, oh, we could use this. I think that because we had done we did a VR chat experience. We had done some AR stuff of okay, hold up your iPad and see things, and it's this is cool, but
maybe not for
this piece. Yeah. And the minute that for people who don't know this piece, it's a really empathetic experience as to what it is like for a person living with blindness to feel the world through sound and touch and all of these things. And I think it was just so exceptional to feel like you can walk in somebody's shoes who has an experience so different than yours. And it's something that we just don't have access to in the theater because we're always seeing things from the third person and over there in the proscenium. And so the thought of getting to close the gap was so exciting.
What I appreciate about that is that this piece that you're reflecting has so much to do with accessibility and so much to do with being human and being able to step in the shoes of someone for whose experience this is. But sometimes when we think of tech, we think about how somehow we're going against humanity by employing it or engaging it. I'm curious how you wrestle with artists who come to you who are at first, assuming that integrating technology means taking out the humanity.
Ultimately, it's really about having the conversations that hey, we were saying, let's be open-minded. Let's just show what's possible. I often, I say to folks, you can come today and then never see me again and be like, I hated that. And to me, that would be a win, to be honest, because I just want more artists to be aware of what's out there. I think so much of why I love sharing that time and then showing not just technical demos, but actual well-made narrative pieces Notes on Blindness is one of the iconic original VR creative experiences that was made in the first wave of big VR push in the 2016-ish zone, and so for artists to get to see hey, this was made now 10 years ago, right? It's not oh, we're thinking of this distant future or this is possible. It's no, people have actually been making this work. And it's art and it's creative. And you actually as an artist are integral to this practice, and you are an amazing writer, right? All the folks in our community are phenomenal writers. And so I really like to frame it as a welcoming, and to say we need your humanity. And in order to engage with the world and make it be the place we want to live, we have to engage with it, you know? So I think that works in general, and I think it works really well with this piece, right? With the ability to enter each of the key characters at a specific moment in the show, enter it with VR, and this kind of back and forth play of, headset to live production, which is the part where I was I haven't seen that before, but it sounds awesome, and beyond also it sounds awesome, it just made perfect sense for the show, right? And I feel in other episodes or, at the event, we talk a lot about technological dramaturgy, right? And so this show feels the perfect kind of example of what we mean by that, right? Literally why you go into headset matches the way that the show progresses, the way you interact inside the headset. We were talking about that literally in a session today, right? Making a sheet of okay, what needs to change inside the actual creation of each piece, so that there is also an arc in the technology, and it's not just okay, every time I go in, I watch a movie. It's changing every time.
That's really helpful to understand, because when we use the shorthand of VR musical. I think that sometimes for people that might also just mean we're going to be in headset the whole time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And nothing's live or anything.
And nothing's live. When actually what you're doing is trying to blend these things, bring these two worlds together, both the live space and also what's the function that putting on the headset can play dramaturgically for the ways in which audience experience is deepened. But tell us who we're following and what this story, this narrative even is. We've talked a little bit about the form, but we haven't talked about the content.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, please. So Come See Your Future is a sci-fi dystopian musical where Earth has been devastated by climate collapse, and the aristocracy has escaped to this luxurious space station, kind of like WALL-E, and all of these people live on the ship, and the show follows 4 young friends in their 20s as they navigate the challenges of this modern world, particularly this woman named Anna, who is a prodigious astrophysicist, and she is awarded this grant called the Gray Prize that's supposed to help fund scientific research on climate solutions and how we might be able to help people. And Anna attends this party with her girlfriend, and they all try a new experimental drug called Destiny. And in this psychedelic trip, which happens in VR, we see this giant invention that Anna's going to build. And so it really all unfolds against this backdrop of political revolution and Anna's growing reliance on this drug to continue chasing after her future, and the class dynamics of all of these people on the ship and how we cope with the world around us and how we might shape our own futures.
Yeah, that's a beautiful pitch. You seem to have perfected it.
Thanks. We worked hard.
And we had the privilege just recently of all being together in Miami. There was a conference called Filmgate Miami, which was bringing together technologists and creatives from all across the world, really, to have conversations about the work that they were building. And we had the opportunity to be on a panel together where we were talking about MTF's thoughts around technology as a dramaturgical tool. And I have to say that my own mind was blown a little bit being present at the conference. MTFXR really began at MTF because of Brandon Power's passion, because of your own expertise at the intersection of these two forms. And so I feel like these past 4 years of sitting in this role, I have been learning what that really means. As someone who's also an immersive theater director, it wasn't a far stretch for me to understand the function that technology could play. And yet, being at a conference, my eyes were really opened to not only the possibilities, but also the challenges, the ways in which we are responsible for setting our own ethics and values as it pertains to engaging with technology. And so my biggest curiosity is for us to just spitball what were the biggest learnings for us as we attended this conference. What were the things that surprised us or challenged us or made you think more deeply about the work that you all are doing? I'm curious if anyone has anything that you want to kick us off with that felt surprising or revealing.
It's something that isn't really one of the tentpoles that I don't even know if we talked about this that much, but it is remarkable. We live in New York City and we are surrounded by so many incredible artists and even like the musical theater factory community. And so when we talk about this project, usually people are mind blown by the tech. They're like, wait, you're going to do what with the VR headsets? And I'm going to put on a headset and like whatever. And you go to a place like this and everybody's like, well, yeah, you're in headset. Like, and what? And you're like, and we're doing a musical. And they're like, a musical? They're like, with singing? And you're like, yeah. And so I think it just kind of reminds me, like, that was such a fun shock of being like, oh, here in New York, like, everybody thinks the tech is so radical and crazy. And then, like, down there, they're, like, mind blown that it's a musical. And that's small, but
no,
but
I'm
also
so glad
big.
you brought that up. It was. I love when you shared. I remember when you shared that with us there, and at the end of the day, I would say like my response, which is connected to that, but also in a more macro, is like honestly, getting to bring you all there was the best part for me,
Yeah.
right? Like, it was something that I've really wanted to do for a really long time. I have a great relationship with this festival in particular. That whole team is amazing. Thank you to Filmgate. Well, thank
Shout
you 10
out.
times.
Thank you, Filmgate.
And to partner with them, and it just felt it made so much sense, and it really felt like a perfect opportunity for all y'all to get to be on the ground, right? And hopefully make more sense out of all the stuff I say all the time, right? When I'm like, this is what's happening, right? Or like when I'm preaching, feeling like, trust me, theater people are cool there, right? It's like they need us. We're special, right? Because so much of the theater industry is so insular, and so people just forget that we have superpowers, and like the rest of the world has no idea how we make the work we make, and if we're willing to share it out, and we're willing to like cross those boundaries and sectors, which now we're really focused on, like our skills become like less, not to like just taken advantage of, but less like they become less obvious, right? So it's like, oh yeah, like I have this really specific skill that we take for granted, and like now you need it, you know. And so I think that to me was my biggest excitement, that it really did have that impact. You know?
I think on that macro level too, wearing this hat of artistic director, I'm so steeped in and understand the musical storytelling development process and cycle. And I think even as we were having conversations about comes to your future and what are the next steps and what are the things that, you know, what are the ways we want to work as our next step, I feel like my mind was really blown when you were able to reflect back to me how actually projects that are built starting from technology first actually have a very different developmental life cycle and the ways that they're built. And that was really surprising to me, and made me realize, oh, it's really important for us to figure out how these processes are holding hands. And this is the way that you've been a translator for us all these years, as you've kind of understood that there are different developmental processes depending on, you know, whether it's musical storytelling or technology led. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you understand those distinctions to be?
Sure, yeah. I feel like there are some similarities and then a lot of differences. I think both processes happen over, tends to be like an extended period of time. However, a new VR work or extended reality work, I would say in general gets put together pretty much faster than a new musical, right? We're so used to the new musical cycle, like, yes, it's totally normal for it to take 6 years, because of all the steps and all the development and then raising the money and then this and that and like all the check marks before you're like, okay, and then we have to wait another year to get the theater, all the stuff, right? In, I think, an XR creative landscape, things can be developed maybe over an extended period of time, but then that production time is more like 18 months to 2 years. Right? And some of these projects that people were pitching there, might not exist today and then premiere in 2 years from now. And that's it, right? And then it goes on tour from there. And then there's the other big similarity of like this co-production idea, right? Of how do we build coalitions between all these different partners in order to make the work happen. And I think there's an even deeper, though, developmental push than maybe in some of the American theatrical landscape to say, like, okay, all these, and it's actually like countries instead of like nonprofit theater companies, right? It's like literally countries and continents all saying, like, bring your talent to us. And if so, we will give you a lot of money. And you're bringing economic development to our country, and we're thrilled by that. We get to put our name on it. And that is similar to co-pro, but also pretty different. Because, like, if we were to bring a show to, a regional theater to do a co-pro, it would happen there, but it doesn't mean, like, all the, like, that core of actors is you doing it, or there's a director attached from that place. It's just like the building. So that's pretty different. And you talked about this kind of 18-month, I mean, granted, we're being general here, right? But like this 18-month timeline from inception to completion for, a piece that centers technology. That also has to do with the fact that technology is changing so quickly. Like that was something that felt really that was a big part of it too.
To
like there, the form of the American musical has changed over the last, 200 years, but it also hasn't, and it's changed a lot even in the last 20 years. But not in the way that, fundamentally performing the old musical is no longer possible, right? In the way that it kind of is with VR, and I was sharing about even a project that I worked on very recently, is now like barely works, and I can't demo it to people or show it to people even though they're interested in it, because the headset's updated and it kind of bricks the experience. So you have to really be building towards like the horizon of what's possible, which also I feel like is aspirational for maybe what we want to do in the arts, especially here in this country. Like, how can we not be like reflecting like, this is what we need to do, we need to catch up? But I'm trying to always build pieces, and what I feel like I love about this piece is it's saying this is what the future of entertainment will be in the next 5 years. And we are setting up for that. And we are building a coalition of supporters who get that and are ready to go, so that when everyone gets on board and is ready to tour this work, the piece is done. Not like, everyone wants hybrid VR musicals, let's make one, right? It's hopefully this piece actually is that piece, and everyone goes, everyone wants to program Comes to Your Future. We all need to make them now, So it's really important to be on that edge and make sure that the, because the technology is just not stopping. And so we gotta, keep up with it. But then that's also really exciting, because then there's constant new edges to go. And that's why I love, being in this intersection is I always talk about this cross of the, like, I get to be a part of a like millennia long history of like ancient ritual that is theater making, and also inventing a new form that literally didn't exist 10 minutes ago, and like make something that no one's ever done before. And the fact that like those two things can happen at once is just like really cool.
That's a beautiful way of framing it. It's really enticing.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Ardai Knox, and I am co-executive director of Musical Theater Factory, specifically the director of decolonization and sustainability. And I am coming at you to remind you to subscribe to The Vibe. The Vibe is to get all of the information you could possibly desire about the Musical Theater Factory community. We let you know what our artists are doing in the world. We let you know what they're doing in our home, in our community base, and it has lots of tips and tricks and links to help you further your career, whether you're a director, an actor, a writer, or just an audience member who wants to stay plugged in. If you want to be tapped into all things amazing in New York, especially within MTF, subscribe to The Vibe.
I'm also thinking about how in previous episodes that we've done, we've talked about what MTF means when we talk about using technology, and that we specifically use this language of XR, which is an abbreviated version of extended reality, which includes virtual reality, which Comes to Your Future engages with, as well as augmented reality and mixed reality. And when we were at this conference, there was also lots of conversations about AI, artificial intelligence, which I think, again, sometimes when viewers hear the intersection of musical storytelling and technology, folks immediately think AI. And that's not necessarily true. And I want to unpack this a little bit, because I feel like in some ways there were a lot of aha moments that I think came up for us as it pertained to the conversations that we witnessed around artificial intelligence. So I'm curious, what came up for you all as we learned more about this at this conference?
Yeah, I feel like when you think of AI, I think of a lot of the negatives. And I went in trying to be open-minded, because there was a lot of conversations about AI. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to go into this conference being like, I'm not listening and I'm not showing up and not learning anything and growing. And I think there was one panel that EmmaLee asked a question about originality. And there's a lot of conversations regarding AI and being like, it's gonna take our jobs and the world's gonna end. And I'm like, true, maybe. And also, it can't create new things. It can only regenerate. So that is something that I was like, I'm curious about this. And then the other side of things, my other big takeaway regarding it is like, is there an ethical way to use it? Is there a way to make a VR musical without it? And I still have questions on that. I don't know that I found the answer.
Yeah, it makes me, there was a great quote about AI not being able to look forward, that it's a tool that can only look back, you know, which I really enjoyed that quote. I wish I could attribute it to the right person.
Yes, it was, I was going to say the same thing when she was saying it. Miles Perkins, who's the head of entertainment for Epic Games, who create Unreal Engine, and he said, AI looks backwards and artists look forward.
Yeah.
And I was like, hell fucking yeah. I was like, putting that on my bedroom.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of people telling us how we should feel about AI right now, and like, I think that, you know, similarly, I try to go in open-minded. I think that I do, you know, we went to an AI movie premiere, which is like mind-blowing to me, you know, and I think that we are entering a digital age in which we can't tell the difference between organic and synthetic content, and like the like ramifications that has on truth and storytelling and all of these things keep me up at night. And also at the same time, like, we're, you know, I mean, we were like at a club being pitched like how to make music with AI, you know, and like, so like some crazy experiences. And then at the same time though, we had people coming up to us and being like, AI can't make theater. It cannot put someone in a space having a human experience right in front of you. And I think that, I don't know
that
what...
was Brandon who said
yeah,
that.
you
Well,
said
no,
that.
it was this whole, it was lifting up the, I don't remember her name, maybe we'll find it in attribution, but the woman from 11 Labs, which is one of the top labs of, you know, AI voice models. And like her entire talk was centered around like, theater is the one thing we can't ever do, and it's like the most protected form by the future.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've been saying that. I wrote a whole article about that. Thank you.
So yeah, I'll just say that I was really inspired by, you know, Copysite AI, which is a tool that helps people check generative AI and whether or not it is like infringing on copywritten visuals that people are using. I think I continue to be plagued by the fact that music is so difficult to protect in that same way, or that we don't maybe have the tools for various reasons that are probably too complicated and asinine to get into here. But like, I think it kind of like, felt good about the way that people are trying to protect artists and trying to make things ethically, and then also upset about other things, and it's all happening at once, and like holding it all to be true.
Yeah. I'm curious, Brandon, because you've been the person who's on the front lines of having to be in these dialogue with artists who are terrified about technology and artificial intelligence. What perspective have you garnered around it that leaves you hopeful for the reasons why you continue to engage with this intersection?
I think it comes down to, you know, the same answer as with, you know, extended reality, right? I think it's, in order to understand something, you have to engage with it. And you don't have to then make it your best friend or agree with it or use it, right? But to begin the conversation, you need to engage. And like we would hope any good conversation requires engagement, right? So I encourage folks who see themselves as very strongly anti-AI for a number of different reasons, which are fair, to use the tools for a couple hours, because that'll actually make you stronger in your arguments against it once you understand it a little better. On the other side, you also might discover, oh, actually, this thing is really powerful in a way that is actually really potentially helpful to me. And it might slightly shift your perspective, or we'll begin to understand where there maybe is like moderation, right? Like I think there's been lots of conversations. There was one there in Miami, and I've heard other people talk about if we begin to think of AI a little bit more like a utility that like everyone has access to, and we have to think of it like we need to teach people to turn the water spout off when they're brushing their teeth.
Yeah.
Let's not just go bananas like everyone kind of is right now because it's new and no one knows what's going on. And also the companies are trying to get us hooked on it, so they're letting us do all this stuff. That's all going to end soon, right? They're already starting to make it more expensive. The new models that just got announced this past week. As of taping, the new Mythos model was just talked about, if that means anything to you out there. And they're only giving it to like a very small set of people, right? So like that's the world we're starting to enter. And so I think it'll become like, let's learn conservation, and it's, so it all just comes down to having the conversation, and then being as really, really nuanced about it, which is my favorite thing to do. And really tease out the arguments, right? Whether it's about hurting the climate.
The environment.
Right? The environment.
I was really shocked when you reframed that conversation. When I think maybe I said to you, I've got a lot of artists in my ear who were saying, it's destroying the environment, so why are we even trying to have a conversation around the nuances of this? And then you gave a nuance even to that argument. Could you explain?
Sure, my response to that to folks is, well, the framing actually shouldn't be, hey, this thing uses a ton of energy, which then heats the ground around it and then uses a lot of water. It's, why are we then using a form of energy that hurts the environment, right? So if we're relying on fossil fuels to burn to fuel in order to power the data centers, what if they were all solar powered? Which is something that is being developed right now. And there's a lot of legislation in the pipeline that is asking for, in order to get a new data center to be built, it needs to recycle its water. It needs to not pull from at-risk communities when it comes to water. They need to create more energy than they actually take. And so the data centers are going to operate on their own grid and then help power the city that's next to them. These are all conversations that people are having right now. And hopefully that legislation gets passed and it makes it better. And remembering that doesn't need to just be the way it currently is. And that if we want there to be more justice, then we need to fight for ways to have more justice. And then the way to do that is to be engaged, right?
And the only way to do that, correct.
And to be like, okay, why is this, blah, blah. And even I was telling you the other night, I woke up in the middle of the night and started talking to Gemini, which is some nerd, and was about this. And I was like, let's make a bill that would let's make a bill together that would solve this. And I stayed up for 3 hours at 3 a.m.
That's right.
Literally drafting a bill to help solve this problem.
That's the most Brandon thing I've heard.
Because I'm gonna release it, and it'll probably be out by the time that you see this. Because I was just there's gotta be a reason.
Yes.
There's got to be a way, right? And I was challenge me, help me understand why no one's done this yet. And it was this is why. I'm interesting, And so that's also a really good use case for the tool, right? I learned so much about how energy works. I'm not an engineer. And why we what happens when you try to then put all the data centers in one place, and why are they all in Arizona? Oh, it's because there's no economic or climate shenanigans that can go on there, right?
Climate shenanigans.
They're very safe there.
Yeah.
But they want to start putting them in places with tons of water, like the Great Lakes region, but they're very susceptible to climate shenanigans. Very formal title. Formal words. And so that's the trade-off. So it's maybe you're going to lose billions of dollars because you put it there, but it's going to actually be so much better for the environment. Anyway, this probably all won't make the cut, but anyway, it's I can go down the rabbit hole with that, and I find it very interesting.
Yeah. And what I really appreciate about all this framing is that what you are proposing is that we don't just allow ourselves to be defeatist about this and to not learn about the impact of technology. That actually what you're saying is we need to arm ourselves with the information about how this works, about what is our function in it, what are our responsibilities, where are the lines that we're drawing for ourselves ethically, and the only way we can draw those lines is if we're a part of the conversation.
Yeah, and that can shift, and even in my last, 6 months, that shifted for myself. Like how I feel about it, and like where I'm like starting to draw my own lines.
Yeah.
And like trying to be open about conversations about like a project I made a few years ago where I'm like, I feel like less great about now, you know, or like, I'm like, okay, how could we have been a bit more tough on ourselves in the making of that work? And, trying to allow that to be okay. Yeah. Right. Which I think can be challenging in this current conversation, the climate of just how people talk to each other. But like, this is a new thing that I fundamentally believe is going to like change the course of like human civilization. Like I do believe it's that big of a deal. And so like, let's all take care of each other and talk about it. Yeah. and not be like, no, Eva, it's wrong. Well, it's like, let's just talk about
regardless
it.
of how you feel people are using it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like that's
right.
Yeah.
Which I think like it makes me think about the conversation of AI and accessibility, and not just accessibility of like, when I think of accessibility, it's like using something, but like right now artists have tools because of AI that otherwise they would have to pay so much money for. And I think that is complicated all at once because like, it makes me, you're talking about using the tool. And like, I joked earlier about being like pitched, like AI music apps, in the club. But like, honestly, it was such a valid conversation because immediately, we're kind of like, and literally he goes, have you tried it?
I still haven't tried it.
No, and he's like, well, then you can't knock it, like you have no argument then, and it's like, that's so fair. You're right. And in that same way, I think that, how many times have we submitted to things and wish we had a song orchestrated? How many times have we needed sheet music? How many images have we needed for pitch decks? How many things? And these aren't like, and I think that that's where the line gets so muddy for me in terms of ethics of like, well, like, a graphic designer or an orchestrator or a copyist, those are all jobs. Those are all real jobs that artists could have. And also, like, if we have $0 from the get, was there ever a job on the table for someone? And I think that's been like a really nuanced conversation for us to have because like my moral compass is like, I will never take a job away from an artist. And then at the same time, it's like, but was I going to give them one? And like, is there an ethical way to use this stuff? And I don't have the answer. I still am like, jury is not out on that. Like I that's something I still wrestle with and we're wrestling with of like, is it okay to have AI make the sheet music if you need the sheet music for rehearsal this weekend and have no money to pay a copyist? I don't know. I don't know the answer.
We haven't tried to see if it does a good job.
Yeah, we haven't tried. I guess we're like being hypocrites because we haven't used the tools.
No, but you're curious about it and you're trying to decide if you feel comfortable.
And you're asking yourselves the question. And so I kind of want to end us with here. What is the line, or what are the lines you have drawn for yourself? Is there a line that you feel like you now have with the new information that you've garnered over these past few years? And it can be the tiniest thing.
I mean, I still feel like I would never allow myself to use it in a creative way of like taking away my own like thoughts about like, I would never use it to like write music. But I am curious about like for the pitch deck, like using like visuals like generated by AI. I'm like, yeah, I wasn't going to pay someone to do that. So, and if I'm in a pinch and really need it, I am curious about if that is okay.
And when the bar has been raised, it feels like of like, well, now if everybody can have AI generated images, and it almost feels like, well, now if I don't have AI generated images and I don't have the money to pay an artist, I'm not getting the opportunity. So that feels a little complicated.
But you now have CopySite AI.
But now we have CopySite.
Now you have a tool. That's right.
And good news, none of the images that we've generated for our pitch deck use any copywritten visuals.
And that's a line.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I think that like, honestly, my line is like, I think that like all of these things are sort of symptoms of the problem that the arts are underfunded. And so if the arts were more funded, we would have the money to pay people to make the things instead of needing to use AI because we're broke artists. And so I think for me, it's like, even if I engage in the tools, I just never want to stop fighting for artists to be paid, to find funding for them, to like right now we're fundraising for our art all of the time, you know, and so I think that like I never want to feel like I take my foot off the gas pedal in terms of fighting for artists who get paid and for the art to be funded. And I don't really, that's vague, but kind of is where I'm sitting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm also sitting here wrestling with the challenges of an underfunded industry, the fact that theater is not at the center of the fabric of society. And so we've got our own challenges ahead of us. And yet, at the same time, you know, we're hearing these really exciting propositions that theater is going to be the only way for us to experience organic, live time, human-to-human connection. And so it's really interesting to be able to hold both of those truths at once and try and understand what we do with them. And this is why, this is the thing that I think makes MTF and the work that you've helped bring to us here so exciting, is that we are trying to be at the front of these conversations so that we are looking to the future. And I will just end with how inspired I am by this provocation that you named around ancient technologies and future technologies holding hands. That's something that I think I'm going to leave with after this conversation.
And what we hope is really alive in this piece, and we're so excited that we get to continue to nurture it here, and we're excited to hopefully see the future of what's possible in the medium, and ultimately create a very in-person real thing with real people, mediated by, you know, super powered by the technology, to really leverage it the best it can be.
Tell audiences how they can find you to learn more.
You can find us at EmmaLee and Maria Music on Instagram and TikTok, or EmmaLeeandMaria.com.
There you go.
There you go.
Thank you so much for being with us. Thanks,
Thank
Brandon.
you.
Of course.
Us.
It's such a joy. Thanks, folks, so much. I'm Brisa Areli and Director of Artistic Innovation and Emergent Magic. Hope you have a great day wherever you are.
Hey there, it's Ardai Knox, Co-Executive Director of Musical Theater Factory, specifically Director of Decolonization and Sustainability, and I am here to remind you that if anyone's got us, we got us. In this time of chaos and insanity, invest in the community that is investing in you. Invest in the We Got Us Fund, a new initiative by MTF to make sure that every single member of our community is not getting paid just a living wage, is not getting paid in exposure, is not getting paid in promises, but it's getting paid a thriving wage. Yeah, you heard me, a thriving wage. Help us ensure that that everyone in your community, everyone in our community is able to not just live, but thrive. Invest in the We Got Us Fund today.
Hey everyone, I'm Fallon, and thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fast Forward. I am on the MTF staff as the Coordinator of Connectivity and Systems. And if you want to stay tuned in, please like, subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss future episodes, upcoming releases, and live tapings. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
I'm a Pisces sun, a Virgo moon, and a Gemini rising. And I think I'm an Aries. What's the one that's like love?
Your Venus.
Yeah, I think I'm an Aries Venus. I don't know what that means.
You're like, but I know it.
I'm a Virgo sun and an Aries rising and an Aquarius moon.
Wow, it makes so much sense.
It does. And actually, I think my Venus is in Leo. I love very loudly.
Ooh. Where's the Pisces representation?
It's you.
Other than me.
You're holding it down.
I'm holding it down.
Thank you.
Start crying.
Oh no.